Welcome back to Any Recapped. Today we will cover Seraph of the End Vampire Reign. Hope you enjoy the video. On a cool winter night, as the people make their way back to their houses to prepare for the next day, suddenly, everyone starts collapsing to the ground, holding their hearts as if someone has cast a spell. Then a group of men wearing black hoodies led by a woman appears. In a suburban area, as some children venture out of their homes, they find everybody dead on the ground. They overheard an announcement that humans have caused an outbreak of a deadly virus, which will cause the extinction of the species. Kids make their way to the Hierarchia orphanage to check out for their caretakers. The announcer adds that children under 13 are in no danger from the virus. Thus, Kralteptis, a unit of the third progenitor, will take care of their protection. A couple of robed men then enter the room and whisk away all the children of the orphanage. They all are transported to a detention center, where their information is gathered. Inside the building, everyone is forced to lie down on a bed while their blood samples are collected. Observing the inhumane behavior of the kids, Yuichiro Hyakuya and Mikala Hyakuya are furious. They intend to correct the wrong. However, they are too young to yield any power. Soldiers of the treacherous Kraltep enter the building and get hold of the two brothers. As the Silver Jacket Boy tries to beat both Lord Farid, the vampire appears and asks them to join him. Before you can reply, Mika comes forward, apologizes for his friend's bad behavior, and leaves, taking you away with him. You questions Mika about how the vampire lord allowed him to leave so easily. He replies that he has donated blood to the lord. Enraged, you punches him and walks away. Sitting alone thinking about their future, you hear Zakanin calling him from behind. He's in no mood to get into a quarrel with her, so he doesn't reply. Akane approaches him and asks him to come inside and eat his dinner. Initially, he relents but then gives away and follows her inside. Akane has prepared curry, a novelty for the children of Hyakuya Orphanage. They are all waiting to enjoy the feast. However, Mika is not at home to enjoy the delicious dinner. When he returns, Mika hands over a gun and a map to you, saying it will help him fight against the vampires. He informs you that he has stolen them from Lord Farid's home. After finishing their dinner, you and Mika take the other children to leave the city and run away from the terror of the vampires. However, as they reach the city gate, Lord Farid appears. He has set this up. He then kills all the children. However, you manages to get close to him and kills him. After that, he runs for the exit and enters the human world. Once outside, you meet security people stationed to thwart vampire attacks. Their leader said, as per the prophecy, the first survivor of the vampire hell has arrived. Time passes, and in his quest to avenge the death of his Hyakuya family, Yu joins the military. The sole purpose of his existence is to kill every vampire and their cohorts. In one of his first missions, he kills the notorious horseman of Apocalypse single-handedly, though a couple of his comrades try to stop him. For his negligence and disobedience, Yu is suspended by the army. Mad at such harsh orders, Yu gets into trouble with his tutor. However, an army surveillance officer, Hiraki Shino, informs him that he is under observation, and that if he tries to create another scene, his suspension will be extended. With no other choice left, Yu calms down and goes back to his seat. Hierarchy further explains if Yu wants to lift his suspension, he should make a friend. Thinking about friends takes Yu back to his past. When he escaped the vampire's dungeon and met the security guards, he was surprised to see a living human. He had been told that all mankind had been wiped out. The military person tells him that though the virus has reduced the human population to a mere 10% of its original size, they exist and have been battling against demons and monsters for their survival. He adds that the resilience of the human race has meant that the resurrection has started. He then introduces himself as Lieutenant Colonel of the Japanese Imperial Demon Army, Ichinos Gurren. He asks Yu to join the army if he intends to take revenge against the vampires. Yu is lost in his thoughts when the surveillance officer approaches him and asks him to join her for lunch. Yu, however, is not in any mood to accept such offers. He is angry at the colonel for not enlisting him in the demon fighting unit. Then Hierarchy tells him these are Ichinos' orders. If he wants to fulfill his goal of fighting against the vampires, he should make friends and prove his loyalty to the colonel. None of this makes sense to Yu, so he walks out of the classroom. Hierarchy, however, keeps following him and instructs him to act sensibly. Otherwise, she will inform the colonel, which will jeopardize achieving his goals. In a locker room, Yu notices a group bullying Yoichi. He calls out to them and instructs them to cut it out. Suffice it to say they didn't agree. Fighting ensues and Yu beats them badly. Yoichi learns that Yu is a military guy and begs him to get Yoichi into the army. However, Yu is unmoved. Yoichi then exclaims that he wants to avenge his sister. Yu is unmoved. Then a blast occurs. It is a vampire attack. She has been hiding in the school. Yu takes out his sword and confronts him but can't get a clear shot. Suddenly, she gains the upper hand, but Yoichi saves you as soon as she's about to attack. Then Colonel Ichinosh shows up and kills her. Though the Covenant doesn't like you taking on a vampire without a cursed weapon, he's impressed that you put his life in danger to save his college friends and that he was able to make a friend in Yoichi. Thus, he accepts both of them into the Moon Daemon Company. Hierarchy informs you and Yoichi about the Colonel's order. However, you asks if they have been included in the Moon Daemon Company, then why is he still in the school? Hierarchy tells him it's part of his training, and if he has more questions, he should ask the Colonel himself. Afterward, she shows you one of the infernal arms, a weapon with the vampire-killing curse. You asked her how to get one for himself. She says through teamwork. However, Yu has other ideas. He attacks Hierarchy to take her blade. She informs him that one can't use another Daemon blade. Nevertheless, a friendly duel takes place in which Hierarchy easily beats you. She reminds him a normal blade can't beat a Daemon-cursed weapon. Hierarchy explains to you to stop going for the kill alone and instead rely on teamwork to get the job done. She says like humans, vampires are also equipped with weapons and it is not easy for anyone to kill them alone. Just then, Yoichi comes running toward you. He is chased down by Yamanaka, the guy who bullied Yoichi the other day. He was asking for forgiveness and wanting Yoichi to accept him as his henchman. When he doesn't get a positive reply from Yoichi, Yamanaka informs you and Hierarchy that one of his friends, Yuji, entered the Forbidden Chamber last night and never returned. You all can be executed for breaking the army law. Hierarchy threatens them and leaves. Mystified, you ask Hierarchy about the Forbidden Chamber. She says it is one of the school's 7 mysteries and no student should venture there. The army uses the Forbidden Chamber as a training facility. If an inexperienced person enters it, he may be possessed by a daemon. She then leads you and Yoichi to an underground shrine as a part of their new training. Hierarchy explains that to capture a daemon, they both should be strong by heart and not given to its desires. Despite Hierarchy's instructions, Yu runs ahead to get his hand on a cursed weapon. Seeing this, Hierarchy instructs Yoichi to go and quickly call an extermination unit as a backup. Yu quickly moves forward and attacks Yuji, who has been consumed by the devil. Before his next move, Hierarchy intervenes and stops him, informing him his heart is full of desire for revenge, and that he doesn't stand a chance to defeat a daemon with such a weak heart. Not paying heed to Hierarchy's advice, Yu grabs the axe from Yuji. The daemon tries to capture Yu's heart by taking advantage of his insecurities but fails. Yu has mastered the second stage. Back in the Forbidden District, Michaela has turned into a vampire. After he forces Yu to run to safety, the Queen of Vampires, Krultips, shows up. She commands Farid to explain the events while waiting for Michaela to die from excessive bleeding. However, he harps back and accuses her of treason, toying with the curse of the Seraphs. He also threatens her to inform the Progenitor Council about it, which could have dire consequences for the Queen. Krul is not to be intimidated by Farid, though. She attacks him and takes him down instantly. Staying no way out, Farid leaves the scene, asking for forgiveness from the Queen. Queen Krul then turns her attention toward Michaela. He lost his right arm while fighting against Farid and is bleeding excessively. She bends over him and kisses her blood into his veins. It turns him into a vampire and gives him eternal life, though not the one Michaela wanted. Walking through the school corridors, Yu is looking for Yoichi and Hierarchy. It is the day when their training for the Moon Daemon Company will start. Hierarchy takes both of them to a classroom, where the Colonel is waiting for them. Then he introduces the 2 new students to the rest of the class. Yu, however, is angry with all the studying. He wants to go straight into the battlefield and shows his rant toward the Colonel. The Colonel slaps him hard and instructs him to take his seat quietly. Seating in the class was Kimizuki Shihao, which provoked Yu as they fought before coming to the class. As they fight inside the class, the Colonel asks Hierarchy about her role in their training. Unwilling to tolerate indiscipline, he orders Yu and Kimizuki to leave the class immediately. The next day, all the students assemble for the Infernal Arms Aptitude Test. To become a vampire slayer, this aptitude test is one of the most important tests to pass. As Yu claims to get the best and the strongest weapon, Kimizuki looks at him with disgust and envy. However, there is one problem: a contestant can only participate as a couple, not alone. With Yoichi pairing up with a girl, Yu has no choice but to pair up with Kimizuki. As the instructor starts the test, an army of cursed puppets walks in. However, the training has to be stopped because Kimizuki's sister's condition worsens in the hospital. Though initially reluctant to leave the training in the middle, Kimizuki is talked into visiting his sister by Yu. He was impressed by Kimizuki's love for his sister, and thus develops a friendship bond between them. Progenitor Council convenes in light of the advances of the Moon Daemon Company. The nobles are apprised of their success throughout northern Tokyo, thus taking on a more dominating position. Thus, the Queen declares war on humans to bring their misery to an end and reclaim their lost territory. Meanwhile, the Japanese Imperial Army also held a meeting under Major General Hiiraji Tenri. The military higher-ups want to discuss the Kansai region's deteriorating condition and seek a solution to stop the vampires' advance. However, getting bored with the meeting, Colonel Guren leaves it, asking the Major General to send him the minutes once it is over. As he walks out of the room, Yu attacks him, which the Colonel repulses. Yu again expresses his desire to get his hand on infernal arms. Knowing that the place is unsafe for such conversations, Colonel Guren orders Yu to come along, promising a contract with the daemon. However, he warns Yu that the Colonel and his team will not be responsible if anything happens to him. Dying to get a chance to lay his hands on infernal arms, Yu agrees to his condition. Back in the office, Hiiraki informs him Colonel Guren is a man of his promises. Thus, you should celebrate now. As the war drums beat in the Forbidden Districts, Miko walks around wondering if he will be able to meet Yu again. As the examiner distributes the results of the Infernal Arms exams, Colonel Guren walks in. He checks with her about the students and is told that Yu achieves 0 marks. Kimizuki scores the highest, while overall Yoichi is the most suited student to acquire a daemon of his own. After having promised Yu to help him get a contract with a daemon, the Colonel doesn't find any relevance in the exam results and decides to check the abilities of the students firsthand using his demonic sword. He unsheaths his sword and many stumble over and pass out. However, only Yu, Yoichi, and Kimizuki remain standing. That is enough for him to judge the students. Thus, he decides to take all 3 along. Before reaching the dungeon, the Colonel reminds the 3 participants that keeping a strong will is important while taming a daemon. Otherwise, the daemon will consume the person, which will lead to his death. Once inside the room, he asks them to choose the weapon of their liking, after which the process of contracting a daemon will start. He cautions that some of the strongest daemons are present, hence, they should exercise caution and self-control at every step. After getting the nod from the Colonel, he reaches out for a katana, instantly pulls it out, and stands in the circle as instructed. As Yoichi steps forward, he relives the moment when his sister was killed by the vampires. He realizes that it was the daemon playing games with him, arousing his inherent feelings to take over his heart. The same happened with Kimizuki, who finds himself standing beside his ailing sister. It calls out to him, but he shouts back at him, asking him to shut up. Watching from the outside, Colonel Guren is closely observing who will successfully make it out of the daemon's tricks. After having experienced these tricks previously, Yu knows what is coming his way and speedily stands his ground. The daemon tried to trick him using his memories and desire to take revenge on the vampires. Finally, the daemon, Azuramaru, surrenders and decides to give his powers to Yu. However, he cautions Yu that as soon as his conviction wavers, his body will be consumed by Azuramaru. Lastly, he informs Yu that his body is 10% not human, which means that humans must have been experimenting with his body. Yu is surprised to hear that. With this, the contract with daemon is finalized. When Yu returns to his senses, he finds out that Kimizuki had already tamed his daemon as well. Now they await Yoichi to come out of his nightmare. Inside Yoichi's mind, the daemon is playing her tricks. She asks why he wants the power when he doesn't have any vengeance in his heart. Despite losing his sister, Yoichi doesn't seem to hold any grudge against her killers. Then why is he here to seek power and question the daemon? He was taken aback and couldn't muster any explanation. She says that she will consume his body and take revenge on his behalf and attack Yoichi. He is so afraid that he can't even fight back. She makes fun of him for being so weak-hearted and not being able to defend himself. After taking over the body of Yoichi, the daemon starts attacking Colonel Guren, Yu, Kimizuki, and Hiiraki. Thus, the Colonel ordered Yu and Kimizuki kill the daemon and end Yoichi's miseries. Yu relents as he doesn't want to kill his comrade. The Colonel reasons as a soldier of Mu Daemon Company, they have to kill every daemon no matter the body they may possess. Reluctantly, they agree to attack but can't muster enough strength to kill Yoichi's body. Yu tries to reach out to Yoichi and asks him to wake up and take control of his body. Finally, he can defeat the daemon and wrest back control of his body. The Colonel steps forward and tells them to forget about the old families they have lost. The company is their new family and they all should care about it. Will Kimizuki and Yoichi be able to forget about their past as instructed by the Colonel? And will Yoichi find enough strength to surpass difficult challenges? Let's find out in the next part. For now, make sure to subscribe for more similar content. Bye.